right, so I guess we have a couple of people who are joined in. So maybe we'll get started. So while we start, we will also let others join in on the call as well. So if you are here, you can add your names to the meeting minutes. So this is the page that is shown on the screen. So you can add it as a comment and I will accept it and you can add your names to the attendees list. Also note that this meeting is recorded and like everything we do at the Apache APISIX project, it will be public and it will be open source. So be at your good selves today. We have some items prepared, items planned for the call today. So without further ado, let's get started. So welcome everyone to the Apache APISIX community meeting minutes. This is our second meeting. So we are just starting out with our global community meetings and we hope to do it more in the future. So if you go to the meeting minutes, the link that I shared, you will find some information on our Slack channel, our GitHub repositories, YouTube channel, and our Twitter. And you will also find links to our Zoom meetings. And you can also see some resources to get started with Apache APISIX, get started as a user and get started as a contributor. And we also participate in multiple events around the world. So if you are anywhere here, you can join on these events virtually or you can join in person as well. All right, so if you are in this call for the first time, you can introduce yourselves in the chat and get to know each other. We also have a couple of maintainers of Apache APISIX on the call today. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask and we'll help you out. All right, so I share the stage to Bobur to talk about Apache APISIX now. So Bobur, all yours.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you, Navendu, for the great introduction. Let me bring my presentation to the screen so we can get started from there. Just a moment. So, screen. So, share my screen. So let me know if you are able to see the screen.
Yeah.
Yes.
The main side. Very good. Welcome everyone to Apache APISIX Global Community Meetup. This is, as Navendu mentioned, we are speeding up with these global meetings, and we found that it's quite useful for everyone who is actually new or doing some work already on open source project like Apache APISIX. And actually, we are super happy to have you join this our global community meeting, and we'll have more this monthly meeting in the near future. So, and let me introduce myself first. My name is Bobur. I'm a developer advocate and also the open source contributor. Sometimes I'm doing also community operations work. And you can also find me on LinkedIn or GitHub, or just if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Slack. And today, yes, we have a very great speakers on lineup. As we started with Navendu, actually he's going to give after the last are going to be, he's going to talk about how to work on Kubernetes with APISIX. And maybe I will leave to him to introduce himself at the end. And also we have the third speaker for today is Zhiyuan. He's going to talk about our Apache APISIX third version, beta version, what changed, what are the updates you can expect. It's very insightful. You will like it, I hope. And actually, it's in general, today's agenda looks like this. We also did this brief introduction, like why we are gathering here. First of all, I would like to explain the purpose of this meeting. And I will usually, every meeting, I'm going to give you what the news and recent changes on Apache APISIX side and what are the community achievements we have. And I will also give a brief information of what are the community channels you can find out or how you can learn more about APISIX. This information I'm going to provide. And the last two things that I have already mentioned. So one of the purposes of global community meetings aiming is to bring the users and all the contributors of Apache APISIX out into one place to meet and discuss about the future of APISIX, right? And so anyone can bring some insight into some of the new features. And also I'm happy to provide always this mostly static information. I mean, statistic information, what the kind of, let's say, researches we did or achievements we did. And every member of community can join it. We have some community, let's say, on Slack or around the world. And anyone can ask questions and regarding the features being demoed or regarding the features, what you can expect in the future. And we are all together participate in the fielding of APISIX feature. So one of the great news I would like to share with you is by now the APISIX has gained over 10,000 GitHub stars. It means we are growing rapidly. If you look at the history of, let's say, Apache APISIX, even downloads, only if we talk about API gateway, right? From the Docker Hub, it's over 5 million downloads. And if you look at the graph also, it is kind of very different. And you can see the how it's increasing faster than compared to the other open source providers like a Kong or Took, Ambassador, etc. This kind of data, I can also maybe send the link directly. You can have a look. We have this community metrics publicly available, so you can absorb some data from there. And then another things, I figure out that our Slack users have over 1,000. Last 6 months it is great kind of improvement on our community work, and people is joining every day, kind of 10 people, 10 new members of Slack. And I'm really excited to see that everybody trying to ask questions, and not only like the basic questions, right, starting from how to build APISIX, how to install, but how technically integrate this APISIX into some of the projects like enterprise project, etc. And our community is quite active in asking questions and helping to each other. The next slide, as you can see, is about our third-party blog posting channels, because we are also some open source contributors, developer advocates working closely to bring more technical content on like different kind of medias. Let's say we are creating blog posts, YouTube tutorials, or conferences, meetups, right? But here's some of the examples on the screen. Is we have, let's say, APISIX channels on Dev2, Hashnode, Medium. I just took 3 of them. Actually, we do have more, like DZone. We are cross-posting in many channels. And the interesting fact that we got more than 9,000 views. Like in August, just in 1 month. And we have like around 82 new followers across all the channels. And in terms of number of unique visitors who would like to read this blog post is also like rising every month. Like we have unique visitors like 600 or 700 every month. And it's growing also in this line. And the other fact is main visitors of these blog posts and the readers who is actually leaving comments and loving and expressing their interest. From geographical area, from United States, I see many people, India and China as on the third place. And if you haven't checked it yet, our blog posting channels, feel free to go this website and search for APISIX. and you can find very useful materials, not only related to APISIX, but around about everything in software engineering and designing, architecture, and the patterns, and anything you would like to learn more about, like software development. And this is actually just the next slide is I put everything together quarterly in like 3 months, what we achieved. We're going to share these slides. Of course, you can have a look later on. And the next, for example, the YouTube channel analytics, what I found for the last 3 months is, for example, we are increasing number of views on YouTube because we have some, actually the lists, like video tutorials list we have, and also we have some video recordings from every conference our speakers are going, like globally. As Navendu mentioned, like we have in Europe, lots of conferences are happening, and United States, in China. So you can anytime look at this events page on APISIX and check what is the next event, and we can also go and participate in this event. Of course, most of the events is the third-party events. Like one of the events, what we are doing as a first party is a community meeting. The next, for example, let me also share with you some of the Apache APISIX new user. Actually, we identified recently. It turned out that BMW Finance in China has been already using like maybe 1 year, if it's not a mistake, like maybe almost close to 1.5 years, Apache APISIX on its core financial businesses. Like they are actually managing all these microservices behind the Apache APISIX API gateway. It's actually fantastic, right? One of the you can proud it. Of course, we have lots of these branding companies in our list, and now one of them is BMW. And the next, for example, who is our new partner? This is Scaleway. It's a European-based cloud service provider. It has over kind of 25,000 businesses in EU market. And it's also playing a very active role in improving open source ecosystem, like including APISIX. We joined as APISIX open source program. Like we would like to offer to their users our API management features on the top of all the cloud services they have. So we found out that they are not offering yet this kind of API management things. So there will be a chance that now both users from both ecosystems, they can let's say leverage the power of the services or features from APISIX and Scaleway. So if you don't know what API Scaleway, just go to their website, scaleway.com, and you can investigate more. So the idea is to connect like more users in both environment and help both users to easily use APISIX on the cloud, because we have until now lots of cloud providers, right? You can deploy APISIX onto this cloud like Azure, you have AWS, and many other clouds. And the next thing is, for example, what our community, contributors are working on automating the deployment of APISIX and APISIX Kubernetes API gateway, right, to the different kind of clouds by using well-known tools like Pulumi or the open source project HashiCorp Console. We are now working on creating Terraform packages, so you can easily automate the deployment of APISIX to any cloud vendors. It will be releasing this, I think, this news maybe probably next month, that after we finish these Terraform packages, and we'll publish this on the registers of both Pulumi and Console. And the next thing is about the conference. Once again, we are participating massively in many conferences. Like, for example, we are planning also by the end of this year to attend 85 conferences and send our speakers. Of course, if you would like to speak in the conference as a part of our community, you're always welcome. We would have sometimes also free kind of guideline that we are always happy to help you. If you don't know in which topics you would like to speak in APISIX, we can give you some ideas, even help you with the abstract and sending a call for proposal. So your talk has been accepted always. So this is a kind of how we are approaching. And next, for example, we are hosting every month, twice, I think, the student workshops in many areas, like including India, Canada, Africa, and we are giving a workshop on how to contribute to open source, how to get started with APISIX, and the students actually, they are very happy because, you know, they are already started of their career, they don't know how to go further, so it's a really good start to join open source, not only APISIX, I mean any open source project, maybe on the Apache Software Foundation, this kind of good things so we are providing, and we got also quite good feedback. Like you can read from the slides, like previously the workshops we had successfully, and many kind of university who is organizing these events also are happy by doing this, and we are increasing also this number of workshops in the future. Or let's say again, related to the student support, we have also these internship programs, right? We are doing every summer during the 3 months, sometimes 4 months. Like for example, joining Google Summer of Code as APISIX, or let's say you can propose if you're a student your project, how to which project you would like to work on with, or we can also offer your projects, invite you to this kind of internship programs. Let's say last time in summer we had 7 project ideas and 5 mentors interested to participate, and we have 10 students already graduated, I would say, from the student internship programs. This is a list of our community channels. Once I'm just showing you again, here are the links. I mean, you can go and check, for example, always follow some tweets on Twitter, or you can see even some pictures on Instagram with our community. And if you have any additional pictures you would like to have in this kind of social networks, you can just ping to us. We can also publish these pictures, or you can also sign up to a mailing list to receive the updates about APISIX. This is a community channels what we have, right? And we have also these learning channels, like of course, whenever you have question, or you are not sure that how this plugin works or how this technical thing works, you can always go to first thing you need to check is official blog. We have APISIX official blog, and you can find all the latest posts, and all in this post, I mean, in different topics, like how to integrate APISIX into something else, or how to guides, for example, on APISIX feature, how it works, or some kind of tutorials. These are 3 different directions. And of course, the news also, we are sharing always on this blog post. And yeah, you can also follow me or Nicola, and we have other also contributors who is actively delivering some content. And before I finish, maybe we are here, all the friendly community, and we have we need to put our forces together to let's say build this community future together, right? That means we need to, let's say, bring new ideas and propose kind of new suggestions, how to improve APISIX features, right? Or you can be always, of course, a mentor in student programs, as we earlier mentioned. So these are references you can find, you can have a look if you are kind of interested to know more. Feel free to just click these links, and I'm going to also share these slides just after the meeting. I think from my side, that's it. I'm on time, I hope. So I can now give my microphone to Zhiyuan. I think it should be next, right?
Yep.
Thank you. I need to stop my sharing. or you can hand it over. Thanks.
Okay, so let me share my screen. Hello, everyone. I'm Zhiyuan, and please. What do you want to ask? Navendu, I see someone is.
Yeah, I think it was Emmanuel. Maybe he did it by mistake. If you have a question, like feel free to ask. Otherwise, Zhiyuan, please carry on.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Zhi, and I started to involved in APISIX community for nearly 3 years. Since it's day one, since APISIX 4. Yeah. So today I want to share something about our recent updates, like APISIX 3 preview. Okay. You can feel free to contact me via my email, and you can also visit my blog for more information about my story with APISIX. Before we started, here has one tutorial section. Bobur has created a lot of beginner tutorials. So, oh, Bobur is laughing, he's smiling. Yeah, and welcome to watch those videos. And here has one quick link, api6.apache.org YouTube. It's very easy to remember, and it will redirect you to the YouTube channel. Okay, so for our roadmap, in the beginning of this year, we indeed set up a roadmap for APISIX. The first is to make APISIX easier to adopt. Like we want to redesign its documentation. Yeah, even though many developers told us our documentation needs improvement. Yes, we indeed are doing so, and also refactor the backend of dashboard. It's under development. And third, refactor the admin definition. We have achieved this. Yeah, there has a lot of details, and you can find this screenshot from GitHub, from APISIX repo. Yeah. The next part is about connect APISIX to more ecosystem, like integrate with cloud vendors, with more open source projects, and with OpenAPI spec. You can consider when you use Postman or HubSpot, you can export your API definitions to APISIX directly and publish your definition to real APIs. The next one is use APISIX to proxy everything, like XRPC, enhance observability of the layer 5 protocol, and support XDS. It means we can use it as Istio data plane, yeah, in Service Mesh. Okay. Okay. The first feature is we fully support ARM64. Because ARM is very popular recent years, and like AWS, Google, GCP, they are using ARM as new ARM architecture, very popular. So in APISIX 3, the performance of ARM-based servers is slightly better than performance of x86 from this screenshot. And to conform to the technical trend of the times, APISIX also did some comprehensive CI regression testing on the new architecture. That it means users can run various functions smoothly when running APISIX in the architecture. Yeah. The next one is support gRPC client. So first question is, what's gRPC? Actually, in gRPC, a client application can directly call a method on a server application on a different machine, as if it's just like a local object. And in API 6.3, we will support a new module, like because if you are familiar with Nginx or OpenRest, you will know there has some limitations to it. But when we implemented this feature, it means the chain code between gRPC and HTTP protocols. Sorry, I mean in API 6.3, we will add a new gRPC client to allow developers, our users, to directly call third-party gRPC services without introducing additional components or requiring service providers to use different HTTP interfaces. Makes the process much easier than ever. Yeah. The next one is we refactor Rust the admin API. In the previous version, I mean in the current LTS version, we are still using admin API with several extra useless attributes in the API responses, because those fields, those attributes are from etcd. So in the new version of API 6, we drop some unused attributes. It will make the response much lighter and easier to read. Also, we update the URI, like we will add, we improve the list APIs. Yeah. So anyway, when you use the new version, you will know what happened, what we have improved. The next one is about we separate data plane and control plane. Before, actually, we now have 3 deployments. In the current LTS version, we still many people are still deploy data plane and control plane in the same machine, and but it will lead to several sorry, I don't know how to spell the word CVE. Yeah, so in the new version, we support 3 new deployments. The first one, transitional. It means you can still, this is default deployment way. You can deploy API 6 and its control plane in the same machine, but we also support decoupled mode. It means you can deploy data plane and the control plane separately, and the gateway will use MTLS to communicate with control plane. Yeah, it's much safer. The next one is standalone. We have supported the standalone for a long time. It means we don't need to use etcd, just to put all configurations in YAML, and the API gateway, the instance will load YAML files and pass the content to API 6 format. Yeah, it's easier to work with GitOps. So the next one is about service discovery, like this screenshot. In the current version, API 6 has supported integration on many service discovery components like Zookeeper, Console, Knuckles. But at the moment, these integrations are all done on the data plane only. Once you have a lot of nodes on the DP, on the data plane, it will put a lot of pressure on the following service discovery components. So at the same time, in the actual production environment of users, they want a much lighter, much simple integration like console, KV, or DNS. Yeah. So in API 6.3, we added a layer of abstraction by adding a subproject, API 6 seed. Okay, where is my mouse? Here, yeah, the green one, to achieve the service discovery support at the control plane level and reduce the pressure on the service discovery components. Yeah. The next one is about XRPC. We have supported XRPC. The X means it's just an abstract representation of a protocol resource. And RPC is what we consider all resources passing through the gateway as a process dispatch, like it's a protocol extension framework. So in terms of position, XRPC is a base framework rather than an implementation of a specific protocol. As you can see from this screenshot, it's based on, XRPC is a framework based on APISIX core here. On the top of this framework, users can implement different application layer protocols, such as Redis, and MySQL, MongoDB, and even PostgreSQL. On top of different protocols, you can abstract some common factors and implement related plugin capability so that different protocols can share these capabilities. So the main role of XRPC can be summarized as providing access to standardized application layer protocols, supporting cross-protocol capability sharing, and allowing users to get ability to access current protocols.
Oh, I think Zhiyuan might have lost his connection. Let's wait for a minute. Meanwhile, let me share.
Hello, Navendu, can you hear me?
Yeah. It's fine now. Yeah, we missed a couple of 30 seconds. Yeah.
Okay. Wait for a moment. Sorry, wait for a moment. Let me switch. Okay, just to make sure in my voice clear. Okay,
Yes.
good. Okay, so in API 6.3, we implement a transport layer protocol extension framework. We call it XRPC. It allows developers to customize specific application protocols like Redis. So next one is about support observability on transport layer protocol. API 6 has always invested heavily in observability support, supporting almost all observability components, such as Zipkin, Apache Skywalking, and Datadog. Various logging components are also supported, but most are carried out in the application layer. In the new version, we will add more transport layer observability support. For example, the support of Prometheus and various logs has been added. It enables users to observe the problem of application layer traffic easily and enabling users to check the operation status of transport layer traffic. So the number 8, it integrated to the OpenAPI specification like Postman. API is an element that involves the entire lifecycle of deployment, from designing to coding, testing, and deploying. In the new version, API 6 will support the standard OpenAPI 3. Therefore, if you manage the APIs on API design and testing software like Postman, it's straightforward to manage and maintain the data in API 6 by exporting those collections. At the same time, various APIs in API 6 can also be shipped through OpenAPI 3 specification and then imported into other systems for use. It's much easier. The next one is about Gateway API and the service mesh. So what's Gateway API? It's a new concept. A Gateway API is an open source project It's a collection of resources that model service networking in Kubernetes. And why it matters in API 6.3 support for the gateway API. We actually started the development in ingress controller. You can check its repo and its issue and its PRs. So in the recent in the latest release of ingress controller, we have supported nearly all gateway API configurations. In this case, the API ingress can be configured using the gateway API. It means we can switch between different data planes, the gateway instances. By the end of this year, the API 6 ingress will have complete support for the gateway API and additional transport and application layer features. As for API 6 is not like other service mesh solutions. API 6 service mesh solution has advantages in the data plane because it's high performance of API 6 itself. Anyway, the solution not only makes entire service mesh lighter, but also makes custom development and migration more convenient with the high scalability of API 6. The last one is about more integrations. Like you can see Open Function, SAML, K-House, Elasticsearch, and CS. Actually, since the last year, we started to work with as many ecosystem software as possible. So you can just follow its updates to learn more. Yeah. Next one is about days ago we have released the beta version in the download page. You can visit the download page to try. And if you encounter issues, just submit a PR an issue in its repo. So by the way, we have supported many languages as you can see Rust, Golang, and yeah. So just read our documentation and have a try. Last part is you can join our Slack channel via this link. It's easier to remember. And also, you can say this is our contributor over time trend. Yeah. So welcome to join us to be a contributor. Yeah. Navendu.
Thank you, Zhiyuan, for that presentation. And I shared a link to the article that explains all of the new features in this new release in the chat below. I will share that link again. Give me a second. So yeah, so you can go through that link to learn about what's new in API 6. Yeah, and I'm particularly excited about the Kubernetes Gateway API support and the API 6 Service Mesh data plane. So Kubernetes API Gateway might make everything much easier. Like API Gateway is a first-hand component in Kubernetes. So yeah, that is particularly exciting. And like Zhiyuan mentioned, API 6 is pretty lightweight. So making API 6 as the data plane proxy for a service mesh can be quite effective. It can better your service mesh performance, and yeah. All right. So moving on to the final topic for the day. I planned to set up a demo, but for some reason, I don't know, I'm not able to pull images from Docker Hub. So I don't know if it is an internet issue. I have been moving around a lot, so it might be something. It might have something to do with that. So let me just get into slideshow. 1 second. Oh, okay. Just give me a second. Okay, I hope you are seeing the presentation slides right now. Can someone confirm?
Yes, Navendu.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So let's get started. APISIX, as you know, is an API gateway. But when it comes to Kubernetes, we have something called Kubernetes ingress. So ingress is basically a Kubernetes resource, a Kubernetes API that basically takes all your traffic. So all of your client traffic hits the Kubernetes ingress, and the ingress forwards it to your backend services. So each of these services could be pods. So each of these services could be running in pods. It could have multiple containers, all sort of thing. These are your backend applications, and an ingress resource will route traffic to those services, and you can collect responses from these backend services, and it will return back to the client. So Apache APISIX has a Kubernetes ingress implementation. So Kubernetes, so it is basically an API. So Kubernetes provides an API, and APISIX implements this API. So Apache APISIX has something called APISIX ingress controller, which wraps around the APISIX API gateway, which is actually the reverse proxy itself. So basically, using the APISIX ingress controller, you can use a Kubernetes manifest file with some custom resource CRDs, and then basically apply those configurations to Apache APISIX. So instead of having to configure APISIX like the traditional way, you can do it in a Kubernetes native format. So the APISIX ingress controller will take in these configurations, take in this YAML files, and it will translate to Apache APISIX configuration. So when a client makes a request to your Kubernetes cluster, to your application, it will first go through the APISIX API gateway, which we will have configured, and the APISIX, and you can leverage all of the API gateway's features to route traffic to your services. So APISIX has the features like authentication, security, traffic control, monitoring features, all sort of stuff. So you can leverage all of that features within your Kubernetes cluster, within your Kubernetes ingress. So I wanted to show this demo, but like I mentioned, my Docker environment is not working, and I don't know why. But I have to debug it. You can follow along by going through this link. So if you go to navendu.me/APISIX ingress 101, you will find a complete tutorial from basic setup to completely configuring APISIX ingress, and you can check it out as well. But yeah, for now, I think I will share. Yeah. So I hope you are still seeing my web browser. So I will walk through that tutorial, and like you can try it out on your own and set APISIX ingress up. And I will walk through the tutorial to give you an understanding, so that when you try it out, you can easily make sense of it. So for this tutorial, I had a sample application. So it is basically a REST API, which will return hello when you make a request. So you can configure this API to be version 1 or version 2 or any version you want. So basically, this is to demonstrate the difference between two different services, and this is just a toy application to basically show what APISIX is capable of and how things are working. And so the tutorial walks you through everything about like deploying the sample application, deploying Apache APISIX, installing APISIX ingress controller using Helm, all sort of stuff. And like it will also talk about what this stuff is, what is actually happening behind the scenes. And yeah, so what we are trying to do with the APISIX ingress controller is, suppose a client makes a request to the V1 endpoint. We want them to be routed to one backend, and if they if they request to the V2 endpoint, we want to route that request to another backend service. So this is the basic sample application scenario that we are trying out in this tutorial. And another interesting thing we have here is how we configure APISIX. So I mentioned two types of configuration in this article. So if you go through that article that I just shared in the chat, you will find these two configurations. And the first configuration uses Apache APISIX's custom resource. So APISIX has its own set of CRDs, which makes it much easier than using Kubernetes native ingress resources. So if you are using this, it makes it much easier to configure it. It makes it much more clear and understandable that what you are trying to do. So basically, we create routes. We create two routes. One with the path V1, and we route it to our first backend. And we have the second route, which we will which is for the path V2, and we will route it to the second service. And this is the APISIX's custom resources, using APISIX's custom resource, but it also supports Kubernetes native ingress resource. So you can use this YAML as well, which does the exact same configuration, but it will work for any API, any ingress controller. So if you can plug and play a different ingress controller if you want, and try it out as well. So this uses the native Kubernetes API. So, but both of these work the same, and they do the same configuration. And once you have configured this route, we also talk about how you can test it and what is happening here. And we will actually be able to see how the routes are, how the APISIX is routing these services. Yeah, and that's it. I wish I could have shown you some demo, but like this is a pretty hands-on tutorial, so you can walk through it yourself. Maybe like as Zhiyuan mentioned, it might be some issue with Docker Hub itself. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I'm not able to pull images from Docker Hub. So yeah, that is pretty much it. And like even though I didn't show you a tutorial, if you have any questions about APISIX on Kubernetes, or anything we talked about today, feel free to ask. Otherwise, you can go to this link and try out this tutorial yourself. All right, I'm opening up the floor for questions, discussions, or anything else before we wind up. Yeah. Oh, Lucas, you can try chat. I'm not able to hear you, but you can try chat, or I can wait for you and like you can try to figure out what's the issue with your mic. Yeah. So like so. With the gateway API support, as Zhiyuan mentioned, with in Apache APISIX v 3.0, you have basically three options. So it either a native Kubernetes ingress, Kubernetes Gateway API, or Apache APISIX custom CRDs. Custom, yes. So the recommended way is to use APISIX's custom custom CRDs, because it resembles it has more resemblance with the APISIX's admin API than the other stuff. But there is always like if you are using APISIX's custom CRDs, then that will only work with API6. So uh, we support all three. We support Ingress and the API6 custom CRDs the same way. Both have like complete support. You can do everything you can do with the Ingress API with the API6 custom CRDs. So yeah, I would recommend using custom CRDs. I'm actually updating the API6's website to be the custom CRD first documentation. So yeah, we would recommend that.
Okay, thank you.
So like one more point to add here is about the gateway API. So Zhiyuan mentioned we will be supporting that in the upcoming releases, but the actual Kubernetes gateway API itself is in a starting stage. That like it is matured. So there might be some issues. There might be some compatibility issues. Things might be breaking down there, but yeah, we will support that as we go along in the future. Does anyone else have any questions, anything else to discuss, anything to ask about API6, API6 community, the demos we showed today, new features, anything, feel free to turn your mic on and ask. We'll be happy to help you out. I think we have a couple of more minutes left with what we have planned for today, so feel free to ask. Otherwise, we have a Slack channel. So we have a Slack channel and a mailing list. So there are a lot of places to ask. And we also have like GitHub discussions. We have a Stack Overflow. We have a Stack Overflow tag. We are on Quora, so you can ask questions anywhere, and like people will be happy to help you out. All right, I guess that's it for today. Thank you everyone for joining in. Yes, so we have some resources on APISIX. Zhiyuan will send it to you in chat right now. We have some performance comparisons. Let me see if I can find them. So we have some performance comparisons. So like you can go to this. Let me share this.
Yeah, I just sent the blog link. Actually,
Yeah,
this blog is written by API6 initial author. Yeah, before donated it to the Apache Software Foundation. It's mainly because at that time, for compared with Nginx and API6, Nginx don't support hot reloading very well. There have some shortcomings, so that's why we built API6. And as for other solutions, there have some. Yeah, just please read this post. It's detailed, and you can check API6 the latest posts on the blog page.
Yeah, and like we also had some performance comparisons as well, so you can check those out as well. All right. So I guess that's all for today. Thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you everyone for being interactive and asking questions. We'll have our next global meeting next month, and we will share the details. We will share the sign up form, all sort of stuff with you then in the coming weeks. And yeah, meanwhile, if you have any questions, feel free to ask on all of these platforms that we mentioned. So thank you again for joining, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.